I really don't know which is worse. A person with a God complex who gets it wrong and then gets upset when you question why it was that he got wrong, or you point out a certain fallacy in what they've been peddling, or somebody who is a BS merchant who is now going to take a victory lap. We got a lot to discuss, but this entire segment went viral, obviously, for a reason.
I was right. He was wrong. I said he'd lose his keys.
No, you were
Couldn't
not
find
right,
him before
and
the
I was
election.
not wrong, and that's a cheap shot, and I won't stand for it.
Well, who won, brother?
You should not be taking cheap shots at me.
Who won?
Before we talk about a nut job calling out another nut job, make sure you guys please cut the notifications on for the channel so that way you guys are notified when the videos come out. YouTube does not always notify you when the videos are going to come out, but if you have the notifications on, it does help out with notifying you, if not right then, but definitely a few minutes later or a couple of hours later, and it definitely helps out in letting other subscribers know that a video has been released as well. Also, make sure you guys please hit the like button for the algorithm. You guys can also find me on Facebook, and you guys can also find me on Twitter, also known as X. And let us go ahead and get into the nonsense of Cenk versus Allan Lichtman. So, you guys obviously saw that, and you probably think to yourself, well, this right here went viral for a reason. But like I said before, it did in fact go viral for a reason. But it is kind of hilarious to talk about this, especially when somebody who basically has a God complex, that right there being Allan Lichtman, gets upset when somebody questions why it was that he got it wrong or questions his model. Now, guys, we're going to be talking a little bit about those 13 keys and what would have actually happened if he had actually applied them properly, but that's going to be coming up more so towards the end of the video because the reaction portion of this video is going to be the biggest part. But still, though, the thing is this here. Election, Nostradamus got it wrong. But what's really hilarious about him getting it wrong is that if he'd actually applied his keys correctly, and I mean applied them correctly, he actually would have gotten a W. But the W would have been for Trump because all the keys were going in Trump's favor. Who is Allan Lichtman? Well, like I said, he is this professor who is known to be the election Nostradamus. However, he got 2000 wrong, and then he claimed after he got 2000 wrong that his election model, his 13 keys, is not for the presidential election, but for the popular vote. We decide presidential elections in this country through the Electoral College, Allan. I'm pretty sure you guys are figuring out that Allan Lichtman lives in a bubble. He lives in an echo chamber. We'll get to that here in a second. 13 keys argument, like I said, I'll be linking some videos in the description box that kind of sort of debunk the whole 13 keys nonsense. One of the better videos on the topic is the Monszuier Z video, which I'll link in the description box. Real American Politics did a video on the 13 keys, and Red Equal Politics also did a video on the 13 keys and basically exposed why it was in fact bunk. Or if you had actually applied them properly to this election, it would have resulted in a Trump landslide, which is exactly what we got. But with that there out of the way, let us go ahead and get to the meat of this video. So, Allan Lichtman, ever since election night, he's been making the rounds. And of course, one of the rounds that he made was to CNN. Check this out.
I love you guys in the media, but I have to say you are complicit in Donald Trump lying and conning his way to the presidency. You know, all the attention has been on Biden's faltering debate, but Donald Trump's debate was vastly worse. It was based entirely on lies, more than 30 significant lies. That's one lie for about every 1 minute and 20 and 30 seconds. He threatened our democracy by saying he wouldn't accept necessarily the results of a fair election. He said he would seek retribution. Why wasn't that the headlines? Why wasn't that the greatest concern from the debate, rather than all the focus on Joe Biden? You know, there's an old saying, it's not just the evil people who wreak havoc on the world. It's the good people who don't do enough to stop them. And the media right now is complicit in Donald Trump gaslighting his way to the presidency and threatening our democracy.
This guy obviously does not understand that all CNN does is talk bad about Donald Trump. All MSDNC does is talk bad about Donald Trump. Even Fox News at one point in time was throwing Trump under the bus. They still do that to this day. They even did it to him when he was in office. Allan Lichtman is a guy who basically gets all of his news in an echo chamber. I think it was Greg Gutfeld said something the other day, and I heard Tim Pool talk about this the other day, and it's actually not wrong. As a matter of fact, I'm actually pissed off that I did not come up with this phrase, but the left, they get their news from hoaxes. Everything these people know, all the information that they're processing it from hoaxes. But as I mentioned before, the left in this country, it's actually been documented, it's been studied. Several studies show that they tend to be more on the spectrum or more susceptible to mental illness, which is so. The exchange. Well, you guys are seeing right here in the B-roll footage, this little bit from election night, Allan Lichtman melting down or about to have a meltdown because, well, Kamala Harris wasn't winning the state of Pennsylvania, and of course he believed that she had Pennsylvania in the bag, but of course she ended up losing Pennsylvania, and of course it leads to a meltdown, which of course I can't play the full thing for because of copyright, because of the music in the background. But still, though, when you get to this segment from Piers Morgan Uncensored, you'll understand exactly why it was that this guy got it wrong. With that there being said, let us go ahead and get to that.
A guy who's richer than most countries of the world, who controls X, spreading vast disinformation. According to reports, billions upon billions of viewers saw his disinformation. People have a completely distorted view of the economy.
What was the disinformation?
Inflation is going up.
Let me pin you down on that, though. You say Elon Musk was spreading disinformation. Like what?
Yes. He is spreading vast disinformation that's sunk in. Even people who think their own financial situation is pretty good think inflation is going up when it's been cut by 75%, that unemployment
but it's still
is
inflation.
a near high when
it's still inflation,
near
Professor.
a low.
On that point, see, it's interesting. You would say that's disinformation, but the point is that inflation is still not zero. Therefore, prices are still going up. Therefore, people...
The only way you get inflation to zero is with a recession.
Yeah, but here's my point.
Now, before I say anything about what Piers Morgan said at the very end, I want to go ahead and say this. Allan Lichtman has got it in him that he blames the voters for why it was that he got it wrong this election cycle. He blames the voters for this. Now, there is a W that Cenk is about to have where he basically points out that, no, you can't blame the voters. But, of course, like I said before, it's a W for the most part for the wrong reasons, as you guys will see over the course of this video, because he can't never get a full W. But the point is this right here. To suggest that Elon Musk is the real reason why it is that Donald Trump won the election, I think is absolutely absurd, especially given the fact that the Biden administration performed so poorly. He's going to talk about illegal immigration here in a second and the quote-unquote disinformation on that. So get ready to hear more delusion. But the fact of the matter is this here. You can't blame the voters per se. Like, you can't actually blame them on how they vote. It's your job to try to convince voters to vote for your side. It's one of the things that the left has actually lost because they've gotten to the point where they think anybody who votes opposite of them is just a moron, stupid, and idiot. And, of course, one of the people that they use for this is one of the people that you saw in this video here that kept his mouth shut, surprisingly, Harry Sisson. Another aggravating little shit that nobody likes. But the point is this here. You can't blame the voters and say that it was disinformation as the reason why it was that you lost. You have the media. You have the mainstream media if you're the Democratic Party nominee. You have MSDNC. You have CBS. You have ABC. You have CNN. You have the mainstream media on your side. And yes, Fox News has a tendency to undercut their own party's nominee, meaning the Republican nominee. But of course, this conversation does get spicier.
But it's not just inflation that people are wrong about.
But do you accept inflation means prices are still going up? Do you accept prices were still going up?
Of course.
Right, so
they
that's the point.
Always do, unless you have a recession.
That's not disinformation,
that's ridiculous.
Then, is it? By Elon Musk,
and
that
it's
isn't
disinformation about every other aspect of the economy as well. Disinformation about undocumented immigrants, like they're the bloodthirsty killers. They are the most law-abiding segment of our society. According to numerous studies, including by the Libertarian Cato Institute, they are fundamentally flawed. You can't have a pragmatic electorate under these conditions, and the mainstream media is utterly feeble. It spends 20 times more time on meaningless polls within the margin of error than it does telling truth to power and indicating the consequences of this election.
But it is
it's being taken over by billionaires.
Okay, I'm going to come to Cenk. I mean, Cenk, you know.
So now it's going to be, we're going to blame the former president, who's now the current president-elect, we're going to blame the fact that he was pointing out all the problems with illegal immigration. He was pointing out all the stuff that was going on with the migrant crisis, pointing out everything that needed to be done as far as illegal immigration was concerned, pointing out the invasion at the southern border. You're going to get mad about that. That's just how somebody would campaign. They campaign on an issue. There's an issue there, and they use it to campaign on, which, by the way, there is a migrant crisis in this country, and even a lot of blue state voters have had enough of this. Of course, a lot of them still voted for Kamala Harris, believing that she would fix it. But of course, they're going to find out here real soon that the issue's got to be fixed by somebody not named Kamala Harris or not a Democrat. And there's something else, too, I didn't point out, and it's about the inflation. Yes, it's true that inflation has gone down a little bit, but the thing is this here. It's gone down in some areas, but popped back up in others. Look, the price of gas 2 weeks ago was $2.76 a gallon, right down the road from where I live at. It's now back to $3.06. I don't think that inflation has really and truly gone down, or at least people, and of course, I'm not an economist, so I'm sure some economists will come in here and give me the reasons why this is the case. But the fact of the matter is that people aren't exactly feeling it. I mean, isn't the left's mantra feelings over facts? Which is kind of funny, too, because they get upset when you say facts over feelings. And you point out that facts over feelings are correct, but they have false facts, and they're claiming that you have false feelings. I think it's kind of funny how it was this election worked out, especially given the fact that people, for the most part, were voting off of both facts and feelings, meaning that the facts that they were given were false, and the feelings that they have are absolutely real towards their false facts. Very, very confusing the way I put that. I know that is the case, but the fact of the matter is people weren't exactly feeling the mainstream media this election cycle. But now we get to Cenk. Well, let's go ahead and get to the meltdown.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm sorry, but I totally disagree with Juan and Professor Lichtman. Don't blame the voters. I think, look, we could get into this discussion, but Juan, I think you're blaming the voters. I think that's a terrible idea. And look, I debated Professor Lichtman before. I told him his theories about the keys were absurd. I was right. He was wrong. I said he'd lose his keys.
No, you were
Couldn't
not
find
right,
him
and
before
I
the
was
election.
not wrong, and that's a cheap shot, and I won't stand for it.
Well, who won, brother?
You should not be
Who
taking
won?
cheap
Who
shots
won?
at me.
Who won?
I have to kind of laugh at that a little bit before I go into it, because every time I rewatch it, I can't help but actually. By the way, this conversation does get more chaotic, and it does get more hilarious, and we will get to that here in a second. But Cenk did actually have Allan Lichtman on TYT not that long ago, where they discussed the 13 keys. So let's go back in time.
Audience, because I think you're leading him in a very wrong direction right now. So when you say, hey, the last couple of polls came out and they're not so bad, you understand that it's the aggregate of the polls, because I could show you a poll where Biden is losing by 12 in Nevada. So cherry picking polls is wrong. You know that, right?
You're wrong there, of course. Polls are snapshots, and they change overnight. So you can't rely on polls taken a week or 2
So the
weeks
very
ago.
last poll is the only one that should count, you think?
The most relevant polls, if polls are relevant at all, because they change so rapidly, are the most recent polls, and they're not close. Trump underwater 25 points.
You think it's not close, Allan Lichtman? You sound like you're on a different planet. You think it's not close that Biden's going to blow out Trump?
I would say that was more Cenk warning Allan Lichtman that he's going to probably get it wrong than saying he's going to get it wrong. But you guys can interpret it however you want. And if I'm wrong, just let me know in the comments. It's fine. But still, though, at the same time, those 13 keys, which we'll talk about towards the end of the video here in a second. But the point is this here. Allan Lichtman got it wrong. Allan Lichtman's not the only one who got it wrong. Nate Silver got it wrong as well. By the way, we call Nate Silver Nate Plastic for a reason. Something else, too, Richard Barris pointed this out, that nobody really and truly cares anymore because the keys model itself is just completely outdated. And like I said, we'll talk about the keys more toward the end of the video. But the fact of the matter is that what Allan Lichtman should just do is just take the L, say I got it wrong, and just move the hell forward and try to fix his model. If he did that there, that would be much, much more respected. But like I said, we got more of a meltdown to get into, so let us go ahead and get back to it.
Make your
You
point,
live
make your
in a
point.
total
Don't make it
world of
personal.
denial.
I read your own followers' comments, and they all trashed you, every one of them, and supported me.
Yeah,
so quiet with
right.
your personal
yeah,
attacks.
come find out again.
Make whatever point you want.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't
Look,
make
you
it
You
personal.
don't know anything. You don't know
You
anything.
attacked me
You
personally.
You're so deluded.
Oh, right. I've only
Okay.
been a professor for 51 years.
On this program,
published
I've never been
13
able
books.
to finish a
How
thought.
many books have you published? No, because you're personally
Yeah.
attacking me again. Say whatever you want, but I'm not going to
Okay,
stand
but
for
brother,
personal
you got it
attacks.
wrong.
You see how it is that he like puts his finger out there and you're making this personal? This is how these people are. I mean, I'm trying to keep it together and not laugh. I mean, look. I understand the way I do these videos. I play the clip, then I respond. And if I was actually behind, look, the reason why is I don't do the videos the way that many people might would want me to do them. If I was like doing it like with like the share screen and stuff, is because if I'm reacting to it live, there's probably not going to be anything that happens except me laughing, because the truth be told is when I normally see leftists melt down like this and argue, I can't help but bust out laughing. But then again, though, I may explore that in the future. But still, though, you guys can obviously see the delusion here. You attack me personally. No, he did not attack him personally. What Cenk did was just simply point out that Allan Lichtman got it wrong. Dude, if you tell me I got it wrong, I'm not going to attack you personally, nor am I going to take it personally if you point something out. But like I said, this conversation went viral for a reason, so let's get back to it.
You were
Whatever you want.
preposterously and stupidly wrong. So, okay, all right. Can I just
Don't
finish
call
a
me
goddamn thought
stupid.
ever on this show?
No, not if you're
Okay,
personally
well,
I
you proved
admitted
it.
I was wrong. I don't need you to call me stupid.
Okay.
Can I just say,
What
it's
kind of
great to see
nonsense
you
is that?
Democrats
Yeah, I
all
know.
getting
Who
along
taught
so
you
well.
manners?
It's lovely to
You
see
need
a
one
Can I
post-election
finish a
harmony as you all
goddamn
come
point?
together
Just- we're
again.
just
Hey,
one
Alan,
right now.
shh. Hey, Alan, you deserve a tall glass of shut-up juice, so can you just shut up for a second and let someone who knows what
Not
they're
if
doing
you're
so
gonna
right,
personally
Piers.
attack
You're
me.
so right.
So-
We're so
Make any
unified right
point
now.
you
Okay.
want.
So-
I will not sit here and stand
So-
for personal attacks, for blasphemy against me.
Blasphemy against me. Blasphemy. I'm sorry. But this guy literally just said that it was blasphemy to criticize him. Now, you could argue that how Cenk is going about this is an attack. But it really started off as criticism. All right, you criticize somebody and they start being a dick back to you, or they don't want to reciprocate. Chances are, if you're trying to help that person out, you may start actually attacking them or getting angry with them to get their attention, which is exactly what I think Cenk is doing here. But still, though, to say blasphemy, this is blasphemy for you to attack me, my keys, or whatever. Yeah, this right here is just peak delusion. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying before that Greg Gutfeld had said, was that these people get their news their news primarily from hoaxes, which of course is also the biggest reason why it is the left in this country has gone completely crazy. But there is more here. So let me go ahead and let this last exchange play out, and then I'll let Cenk give his full response, because Cenk, once again, gets a W here, but for the wrong reasons, as you guys will see soon. So let's go ahead and watch this.
You don't need to do that. You don't boost your
Blasphemy
ego
against
by
you? Who the hell are
attacking
you?
me
Are you
like that.
Jesus
Just
Christ,
make
you
your points.
loser? Okay, can
Make your
can I
points.
just give the correct answer for once? Okay, here we go. So, guys, you're blaming disinformation. There was disinformation. There was the cats and the dogs nonsense. The points you're making about undocumented immigrants, I agree with, Alan, okay? But that didn't cost the election. The main disinformation was about how the election was going to be rigged. And it wasn't rigged. It was dumb. They won easily. There was no need for that disinformation. You guys are missing the whole point.
Rigged, you say. Rigged, you say. Can somebody ask Bob Casey in Pennsylvania why it is that he has not conceded yet? Oh, wait, that's right. They're still counting ballots. The judge in the state of Pennsylvania, the judges have ruled against him. Josh Shapiro, the Democratic Party governor, has said stop with the illegal counting of votes. The RNC has sued. The Supreme Court had already sided with the RNC before the election on illegal votes. So I guess the whole thing about that R word, it seems to me like Cenk has gotten that one wrong. However, Cenk still gets a W here for obviously pointing out a bullshit merchant. But of course, Cenk will find a way in his election analysis to get things wrong. So I'm going to let the next minute and 30 seconds play, and I'll tell you the biggest reason why it is that Cenk is wrong. And of course, it's the most obvious reason in the world. It won't take long for me to explain, because I've been explaining it now for the past 4 years, but Let's go ahead and roll it.
There are three wings of the Democratic Party. There's the establishment wing that the great majority, almost everyone on television supports and kisses the ass of and does propaganda for. That wing has led to disaster. They lost to Donald Trump twice, nearly lost to him 3 times. And then the other wing is called the progressive wing, but those are two different sets of people. In the progressive, so-called progressive wing, what you have is the identitarian left, the people who do what the right wing would call woke politics and identity politics, and that is disastrous. That's what the trans ad was at the end, and it cost us. The most popular part of the Democratic Party is the populist left. That is the Bernie Sanders 2016 campaign. That part says, let's do super popular economic proposals like paid family leave, higher minimum wage, universal health care, public option. Let's do all of these things. And the establishment goes, no, our corporations don't want that. Our donors don't want that. So we'll just do identity politics.
Identity politics is exactly what the far left, progressive left wanted the Democratic Party to lean into. They wanted it back in 2020. They wanted it in 2024. They wanted it actually in 2018. They've been wanting the Democratic Party to adopt identity politics, and the Democratic Party adopted identity politics, and look at what happened. They got their asses kicked, like I said they would. So once again, Cenk, I don't know if Cenk is trying to pivot away from his own faith. When Cenk talks about populist voters, well, guess what? A lot of those populist voters joined the Republican Party shortly after Donald Trump got elected in 2016. A great example of this would be H.A. Goodman, who's very, very much a Trump guy. Cassandra McDonald was very, very much a Bernie person, and then she supported Donald Trump in 2016 after Bernie dropped out. Tim Pool, same thing, Bernie bro. Adam Krigler, same thing, Bernie bro. A lot more Bernie bros have left and went to the Republican Party or went to the Trump brand of the Republican Party than they had the populist left. So Cenk can just kind of stop it with that nonsense, but still at the same time, it is fun to see Cenk basically saying that the Democratic Party did not take my advice and they lost because of that, but yet the Democratic Party actually did better by not taking Cenk's advice. And of course, you see a BS merchant like Allan Lichtman have to stand here and answer for his failures. Which brings us to my final point, that is the 13 keys themselves. The 13 keys is basically, I think it's 6 keys. If 6 keys are achieved, then the incumbent president of the United States, or the non-incumbent wins. My bad, the non-incumbent isn't winning. Like I said, the videos will be in the description box, but let me give you some examples of how bad Mr. Lichtman's keys were. There's 2 keys, one for short-term and long-term economy. The mainstream media reported that we had a good economy, even though everybody knows that we don't have a good economy. If Allan Lichtman had applied those 2 keys correctly, Trump would have had 2 keys to the White House right there, to go along with the third one, which of course was charismatic challenger. Also, third-party challenger. Chase Oliver ran for president on the Libertarian ticket. Jill Stein ran for president. RFK was still on the ballot in a lot of states. Oh, by the way, to go on top of that, you also had Cornel West on the ballot. You had other candidates out there. So, of course, there were third-party challengers. So that's 4 keys right there. You could argue that the fifth key, which, of course, was strong in-party challenger, which there was Dean Phillips, and then, of course, there was RFK. You could argue that that one is not exactly a key, but that was 4 keys right there. Another key that Allan Lichtman had was no social strife. Well, what do you call 2024? What do you call all the protests and the riots you had at college campuses over the war in the Middle East between Israel and Gaza? The Free Palestine people. That's 5 keys. Oh, wait, that's correct. He said that Joe Biden had no. He said that one of the keys was that Joe Biden, this current administration, he said that there had been a foreign policy success. Well, what's the foreign policy success? The withdrawal from Afghanistan, 11 Marines dead, a corpsman, and of course a soldier dead. That was a failure. Well, you can't say that that's a foreign policy success. Oh, wait, that's right, the war between Russia and Ukraine, which, by the way, could have been completely avoided had Biden just simply put his foot down or done what Trump did the previous 4 years he had been in office. So, yeah, that right there is 6 keys. Also, something else, too. He gave the key of incumbency to Kamala Harris, even though she was not the incumbent president. Now, you could argue that that's the case, that you could argue right then and there that that key would have probably worked against Trump because it was the incumbent party. But still, though, she did not have incumbency. There was arguably anywhere between 8 to 10 keys that, if applied properly, would have suggested that Donald Trump would have won. That's how bad Allan Lichtman's keys to the election victory, that's how bad they were off. As a nut job, the guy's a quack. That right there is the truth. We're just having fun listening to one quack call another quack a quack. And of course, obviously, that entire panel is full of quacks, with the exception of Larry Elder. And Piers Morgan, I'm still not entirely convinced is not a quack, even though obviously he's not as bad of a quack as what he was when he worked at CNN. But you guys, please tell me in the comment section. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say about this particular conversation. There will be 2 videos out tomorrow. My plan is at this moment in time to get the video that was scheduled for the day out tomorrow. I'm just trying to get a little bit more information to throw in that video. It's going to be a little bit longer of a reaction, but the other video that I have planned may be the video on the 4B crap, or it may be the video on what's going on with the possibility of court-martialing generals who kind of helped us, like kind of put us in this current situation that we're in when it comes to foreign policy, the war in Russia, Ukraine, and also not to mention the fact Biden certifying and telling the Ukrainians that they can use long-range missiles on Russian targets. Yeah. We're headed towards World War III before Trump even gets in the office. I may cover that tomorrow. I'm not entirely sure. Either way, though, I want to get some more information on that. You guys tell me what you think about this right in the comment section. We'd love to hear what you guys have got to say. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comments, and I'll see you guys later.